These giant 9-inch Wenatchee Clovis points were never meant to fly. They were a prehistoric toolbox, a flake reservoir, so to speak. Stay and discover partly why. In the meantime, I need to make a drill for this. I broke this, and let's see, I did let's see, this is the rock that I took some cores from, or some flakes from. Let's see, I knocked the big end off here and then took 3 flakes from right there over here. So I set it up. You run a bifacial blade, it can't be, did I bring the other one? You know, if you take a crested blade and you want to use it as a drill, it can't be curved. So I created a bevel or a bifacial edge on it right here, and I made it square. It's not curved, and I set it up for a punch flake, and then took that off. So I'm gonna attempt to make a knife river drill out of that that will fit into here. But also off camera, I took that same triangular drill bit and started drilling on this hole, right? And then I dropped it and broke it. Well, it's like, well, should I make another triangle drill, or should I try something else? I went and got the wood bits out of my toolbox, and it's like, you know what, I think I can make a flake look like that. And I had to resharpen it once. Don't laugh at this thing, it's ridiculously funny. I'll explain why. I know it looks like a key, kind of. It's a flake. I took this from the Dalton. This is one of my Dalton flakes, and I liked it because you can't see it now, but instead of having one ridge down the middle, it had 2 ridges. And it had not too much thickness, but I was worried that it might be a little too thin, but it gradually gets thicker as you get closer up here. And the reason it's wider here than here is I kept hitting on the sides. You know, you turn and you twist a little, you turn and you twist a little, and it makes me wish I had a drill bushing. But regardless, this thing worked amazing. It's like I say, this is the second sharpening. It's a chisel tip. Well, you can see it's kind of looks like a drill bit right on the end, where it's kind of, I don't know, not squared off, but a little bit, yeah. And this angle, I'm trying not to get it too steep, trying to keep it more obtuse or blunt, but anyway, worked great. This thing, it goes all the way in there, all the way. And see if you could see it. Probably won't, yeah, maybe a little bit. I took a little video of me doing it. This is the old pressure flaker that was getting too short out of my longer pressure flaking stick, and it was also real pithy in the middle, so I ground it all the way to one side where all the pith was gone at the tip, and there's still pith right there in the middle, but not at the tip, kind of like a chisel as well. And that bone is good on the outside edge, but that fits right in there. Just goes all the way to the bottom, turned all the way around. What I want to do with this is, I wish I had 2 of these, because I would make one for a pressure flaker, and I'd make one for other tools, indirect tools to hit, put gouges in this and a drill bit. But to hold this in, I'm going to try to use hide glue. Like, I want to try to use rabbit hide glue. I've got some coming. It's not here yet, but rabbit hide glue is it's more elastic than like bone glue, and so it's a little bit more forgiving, so it won't crack and break as easy. And I also, this is the other end of that I chopped off in one of the other videos, and I ground it on a sandstone, and it goes in there. So that might need a leather shim to keep from twisting. That's what I had to do with my last pressure stick. Or, well, sometimes you have to do that. I used to have little strips, just, I don't know, 1/4 inch wide and about from my finger to there long, what, 1.25 inch long, and you put it in the end of that, and you put that in there, and you can use just a corner if that's too much, you know, use a piece of it or something thinner. Anyway, you figure it out. You can also make spacers. I used to have ends of these that I'd cut off, and I'd have one is like, I don't know, 1/8 inch thick, then one that was like 1/4 inch thick, and that would make my pressure flaker longer. Anyway, I got a lot of talking to do. I haven't said anything about the Wenatchee site. The Wenatchee site was never covered by the ice sheet. There was an ice dam north of the Columbia River. I mean, north of the Wenatchee site. It dammed up the Columbia River, and ice was never on the site. It dammed up the glacial ice sheet, dammed up the Columbia River, and the ice age would, you know, it would advance and it would retreat and advance or recede or whatever. And during the receding cycles, it would cause these megafloods. The water would redivert and literally carve new rivers. They called them Scablands. Took everything down to the basalt layer. There was no trees or anything around. I'm going to show you this picture. I think this will show up pretty well. Try. This is this is a cross section. Cross section of the Columbia River right through the Wenatchee site. The cross section line runs across the gorge around north-northeast to south-southwest line, and it would erode so much sandstone, which is underneath the basalt, and you can see it, it's all labeled there, that it caused huge landslides. There was a lot of basalt in the river basin, there was a lot of sandstone in the river basin, and there were some agates as well scattered around. The Pangborn bar is a gigantic gravel bar that the apple orchard lay on, where the Wenatchee cache was buried. The glacier, let's see, is there anything else? There were lots of floods through that through the Columbia River. It didn't just happen once, it happened many, many times. Let's see, 200 years before the cache burial, Glacier Peak, which is a volcanic peak nearby, it's just a little bit northwest, erupted and settled a thin layer of ash. This was 200 years before the cache burial, and you could take the microscope and they can see the ash mixed in with the Clovis points. So that makes this site special, unique in a way that it's kind of hard to mess up. Like, it's that layer is a stratigraphic layer that is commonly used to date things in the past. The Wenatchee Clovis site is also unique because it was the most completely intact and professionally excavated Clovis cache. There are also, I want to talk about two other sites: the Sheridan Cave, and that's in Ohio, and then the Manis site, which is also in Washington. The Sheridan Cave site, I don't remember the date on it, but it's Clovis age. There was a pig in a cave that had a shoulder blade. I guess they found the shoulder blade, right? It had a hole through it, and it looked like a bullet hole, but it was, they also found, in association with, I don't remember this story, it's been a long time, an ivory tip. You can get it on the casting lab. I'm going to have it soon myself again. And this ivory tip just so happened to, ivory or bone? I don't remember. I thought it was an ivory tip, just so happened to perfectly fit within that hole, right? So it was assumed that it was used as the projectile point. Also, the Manis site, which, by the way, is 800 years older than the Wenatchee Clovis site. Well, I won't say any more about that right now, but the thing about the Manis site I do want to say is there was a mastodon there. The mastodon, way back here in his rib, up near his spine, there was an ivory or bone point, I don't remember which one, buried in the solid bone, about an inch and a quarter deep, just, and that was it. It was stuck there. It broke off. This was after it penetrated through all that wool. I guess it wasn't a woolly mammoth, it was a mastodon, but still they had a lot of long, thick, coarse hair, hard to penetrate. Then a thick hide as well, and 12 inches of muscle, dense muscle, before it ever even got to the bone. So quite a lot of momentum, and from up above the mastodon as well. A lot of momentum to be able to penetrate that far and go that deep in the bone. So, it's connected to the Wenatchee Clovis site because the Wenatchee Clovis site also had bone and or ivory tips found there. I don't remember again. They used both, though. So I've collected artifacts myself where they were ivory and bone projectile points. They were both used. Interesting too, did you know that there was never any ice from the ice sheet during that ice age blocking a path from the footprints at White Sands, New Mexico, to the Wenatchee site in Washington? Those footprints at White Sands were dated to about 22,000 years ago, just right down the road here too, by the way, not far. So I want to explain partly in this video why the Wenatchee Clovis points were not projectile points. I don't remember, there was 14 fluted points, I think, on Valdor's poster that I remember. So they there were no impact fractures on any of them. It's not look like it's very, I just kind of not traced, but kind of sketched, looked at one and drew it roughly. But the point I want to make is one of the reasons why this would never make a good projectile point is, look at this for one. This stick you put in the flute, the hafting, right? That's what the flute is for. It's for hafting. I didn't say it. Somebody else said it. A bunch of archaeologists, right? Pretty sure. So it can't be wider than the flute, and it can't be longer than the flute. It's supposed to stick in the flute. So then you have to round that, and this thing is just gonna, as soon as you hit it, those, imagine trying to go through the rib of a mastodon. And as soon as this hits a rib, there's going to be a bending force, and this thing's going to go sideways, and it's going to snap and break. That's it. Two pieces. One here, one here. So if this breaks, it's probably going to break the hafting. Not necessarily, but it's a good chance that it will as well, or mess it up, so it has to be redone. So they have to have a whole nother one of these. Okay. I'm going to talk more about it, but it's a flake reservoir to take bifacial flakes from. But what did they do with the bifacial flakes? I'm going to talk about that specifically in the next secret surprise video series. What other cores did they use, and where are they? Like, we haven't found any that we know of. So they got, the reason that we don't find them is because they got used up. Like, for example, I need a drill, right? I'm not just gonna go take my rocks that I quarried, the Wenatchee, those rocks, they came from, I don't know, 200 miles southeast, some of it, I forget, but I only have so much rock with me. If I go making just, I don't know, take a flake where I can take a flake, make tools, or I can take a flake there, so I'll take one there, and just, just make a whole bunch of tool flakes. I don't even know if I need them. Maybe I have 12 drills, but maybe in reality I don't use up those 12 drills for a year. So maybe I only needed 3 drills. So the point I'm trying to make is I need a drill. So I'm going to go to my rock and I'm going to knock off a spall, one little piece, and make me a drill from it. That's what I mean. That's what I think they used it all up. They used everything. They were master craftsmen. They utilized every possible bit, all the flakes. And they tried to take flakes that they needed. So I think archaeologists like maybe Crabtree, maybe a bunch of others, I'm probably wrong, I shouldn't mention names because I don't remember, but I think they list a lot of different types of cores. But whenever I see them, it's like, well, in the end, that one you call that weird name turns into a prismatic core. So I don't know, but I don't know much either. But to me, I see, maybe 3 different types of cores with Clovis people. Bifacial cores and prismatic cores, and I don't know, I'm calling it a random core just for myself because I don't know what to call it. Don't call it that. I'm not saying that you should call it that, but you end up with like I have one rock I cleaned all the cracks off of. It looks like it's going to be a prismatic core. But what if I need a big giant spall off of it? You know what I mean? So I've got another rock where maybe I can take that big giant spall off of. So, by the way, that reminds me, I didn't talk about, I haven't got there yet. Okay, let's see. Yeah. All right. So the random core is just a core, to me, that I think you could take a crested blade off of, a triangle wedge blade off of, a flat blade off of, a big spall off of, but maybe you can't do all that with a prismatic core. And you can't do that with a bifacial core. So, yeah. It's just an idea to kind of expand thought about this when you're thinking about this stuff. So, I mean, where was the source for all this stuff? I told you about the flint. I hinted around about sandstone hammerstones because the Columbia River Basin is full of sandstone that from landslides, and that stuff got tumbled around a lot with all the rest of the erratic, so I'm sure they had plenty of sandstone hammerstones. They also had plenty of basalt hammerstones. But you don't have to use it for a hammer, and I don't mean hammerstone for flint knapping, for finishing work. I mean basalt hammers for maybe real early work on big gigantic flint cores, but more than anything, it doesn't take very much. I haven't made them, but I've seen some videos where they take basalt and chip it into shape, and you can grind it fairly easy. I think easier than flint. And so I believe that they would have used basalt as choppers. I forget the early archaic axe is it a 3/4 groove or full groove? I can't remember that stuff anymore, but early archaic means transitional paleo, from paleo to archaic. So to me, like I said, if you're gonna grind it, or maybe I haven't said this yet, but if you're gonna grind it, it needs to be chipped, and it's heavy work. Not chip, I'm sorry. If you're gonna I got all my words backwards. So if I have ivory and I want to chop it into 2, like a beaver chews a log in 2, then it's not delicate work. This is heavy work. So I want a ground implement. Ground basalt would work good for that. For precision work, I would use chipped stone, like I did when I cut the antler. You hold it on there and hit it, and some of it's gonna eventually, it might wear on your tool or take a flake off your tool, and you have to repair it. So that's common. Preservation bias. Ouch. Preservation bias. Some of you are going to already know what this is, but for those who don't, the main reason that I shouldn't say the main reason. The reason that we say that projectile points are made out of stone is because of preservation bias. We find stone projectile points because they preserve very well. we don't find bone projectile points or ivory projectile points because they don't preserve very well. So due to preservation bias, the common world believes that projectile points should be made out of stone. But I'm going to talk about it here and there throughout this whole series and even into the next one about this stuff. So I want to talk about, since we are debunking, let's see, what did I say? Oh, well, not that, never mind. So we've already given a couple reasons at least why the Wenatchee Clovis points wouldn't make good projectile points and aren't projectile points. And I'm going to explain what, if you engineered the killer tip, this would be it. Okay? The name of this point does not matter. I'm just going to show it a little bit first. Okay. It's perfectly engineered to be a projectile point. It has a sharp tip and sharp edges. Notice that these edges come up to a maximum width, and then they start to it starts to get smaller again. The width gets smaller again all the way into the hafting element, and then there's ears here as well. So you put your throwing stick on this, or your lattice dart on this, and you haft it, and you can haft this all the way up to the ears. You can haft it beyond the ears, and you can make it this thick if you want. So it covers all of that really well, all the way up and down the haft and everything, as long as it's no wider than this right here. If it's no wider than this right here, then this does easy work to go in and cut, and then once it gets past this point, it doesn't have to do any work at all. The hole is already cut. Everything after that is smaller in diameter and easily goes through the hole. This just keeps penetrating without any resistance once you get past this point. Now, if you look at it this way, it does the same thing. It's very gradual. It's very thin at the tip and sharp, but it comes up to a maximum thickness that is in line with the maximum width. Once you get to that maximum thickness, it starts to taper and gets thinner all the way to the hafting element. Once again, this helps with penetration. And when you wrap this, there's no impedance. This thing is thick. You don't want these to be thin. That thickness helps, gives it strength, and helps with penetration. It helps to with less impedance from the hafting. So that to me is the qualities of a good projectile point. Hopefully I didn't forget anything on that I wanted to say. So the reason why the Wenatchee Clovises won't work, you know, it doesn't have that shape, right? It's jagged on the edge. Every one of them on the poster are jagged. And it's thin. Those, if you've seen these are very thin. If you've held these casts, they're very thin. They're used up. They're used up bifacial cores. There's no more bifacial flakes to speak of that you can get from these, not large ones. That's it. I took this got a little bit of time. Oh, that's not. Man, I was gonna make this. I need a little piece of leather to stick in there. Maybe I can just use this piece of rawhide that's sticking out. You gotta wet it. While I'm chewing on that, I'll show you. I got a couple of bones. Anybody guess what these are? Anybody know what they're called? What animal they came from? Length. I have a couple more coming too. I'm gonna do some practicing on those. All right, let's see if I can get this together. I need to put that. Right there. And I just put it over it like that, and then that end will slide in. That went all the way to the bottom. Man, I can't get it to twist. So we'll put it on some stone, and then we'll see if that'll twist it. Okay. I want to, let me talk about this. I want to make this to go in here, and I'm going to try not to let this run more than about, no more than 15 minutes, so I probably won't get it done. So I want to talk about strategy. So for a drill, you can't have a curved blade. I meant to bring that one out here. The first crested blade I took off this Knife River biface was curved because the edge was curved, but I made sure this was straight, and then I used a punch flake, set it up like a punch platform so I could hit straight into it, and I got the right flake. So when I look down this, I can see, man, I have some really good angles, but this one edge needs to come in, and I can see too that this should be, I guess this is my tip and this is my whatever you call it. And I can extend length if I'm careful, and I want to make this piece has to be straight in line with this. It all has to be straight in line with this, so whenever I twist it, it's straight. So all of that is part of the strategy when you are first looking to take this flake, and you need to make a drill. So this is going to be the tip. I need to make some different sizes of these. I would like to make I need to make probably up to a 1/2 inch. Cut a 1/2 inch diameter hole, maybe 5/8. Yeah, maybe 5/8 even. Now, I would love to use that. Right now I'm just straightening up this edge, and I'm moving this edge closer to that one so that these faces even up. You can see this face here is narrower than this. So you remove flakes from this, and that makes this face narrower and that face narrower. Strategy. What was I gonna say? I wish Wish I was using this, because I don't need this great big a long thing. It's really in the way. I could take a little burn right here and make a drill. I didn't get it like I wanted. Broke. But I've seen some really, really tiny holes drilled in ivory that weren't tapered. They were the same diameter, like you just went in your shop and got the right size bit and drilled a hole. I mean, it's like this one. This one's same diameter all the way down, except for the very, very bottom where it's not tapered at all. It's rounded because of the way the end of my drill bit looked. You've got to straighten it all out. It's got to fit in there. I don't even think the megafloods stopped, if I remember right, before the Wenatchee people got there. Let's show this. That's, if you could see these two ridges right there on this face. I'm going to take a flake from here that way and there, because it's hinged at this edge. Those ridges don't quite meet this edge, so, and it's sticking out a little bit, if you can see. Yeah, I mean, I think it must have been a crazy time for, just imagine, like, so the Manis site, so I'm going to say that there were Clovis people there 800 years prior to the Wenatchee, right? They're using this ivory point like them. But that Glacier Peak was 200 years before the Wenatchee cache. There was no ice at the Wenatchee site. There was a lot of access. You had to be careful and not get swept away by a mega flood over the Scablands, but you could carry wood from, if you traveled and got out of the Scablands, and I was reading that they should have been able to find spruce, just pockets of spruce here and there. So to me, I wonder, well, maybe they got some shafts there for spears. Maybe they got some little sticks for to hold some tools or something, or maybe they used bone for that stuff. I don't know. This could have been made out of bone easily, out of a mastodon leg. Bone and ivory were plentiful. It was everywhere. Not laying on the ground, but I mean, they were walking on the ground. Sure makes me wonder how many people there were in those groups. If you're to kill a mastodon or a mammoth and you relied on them solely for tools and stuff, like, how many people did you have? Like, there's other megafauna that's smaller than a woolly mammoth, so why do you have to go after them? I'm gonna stop the video right there short, show you what I got. I'll work it more off camera. I used my hands a lot today, drilling that hole and stuff, with holding that with my finger. I wrapped it with leather too.